Female explorers play a main portion in the UK's charm in Egyptian mummies a age back, and girls who, lot after, attended their collections in country museums are amongst presents upwards and coming archaeologists. Samira Ahmed looks at woman impact in the Mumia planet. It was a lighting lamp time, love creature teleport behind in old Egypt, says Danielle Wooten. Remember her emotion at Vision Bolton Museum's Egyptian mumia for the at first period. Abruptly down there were these human beings how lived hundreds of years ago and in a really various way to how I lived my lifetime in Bolton. It was fair wonderful to believe how the some planet existed, the history, who were these human beings and which type of tongue did they say. In period Danielle became a vocational archaeologist and an specialist on Canal 4's period crew. After, the identical item happened in Macclesfield, 30 miles to the southward, while Rebecca Holt walked in the town's Western Garden Museum and saw the mumia instance of a 15-year-old shrine lady. I was perhaps on 5 and recall vision the mumia instance for the at first period and it was fair steep charm, mother, which's the, and my charm never went off, she says. She stored departure behind and at 14 was a museum voluntary, conducting several hours down there following high school. A coach, Honorable Supervisor Alan Hayward, learned her how to recite hieroglyphs and knob objects. Now 24, she's fair completed a wizard's extent in archaeology at Oxford College. The passions awakened by the mummies in these two youthful female are legacy in a really straight way of two female who lived in their localities a age over, and whose collections the museums were constructed to building, Annie Barlow in Bolton and Marianne Brocklehurst in Macclesfield. In reality, down there is an, though much stronger connection rather than the among Danielle Wooten and Annie Barlow. Barlow was the child of a rich plant owner, and Danielle's own grandma and auntie treated in the Barlow and Jones household mills. It was the cash gained of the plant, that twisted Egyptian clap in Lancashire fabric, how switched Barlow to go and investigate Egyptian tombs. Marianne Brocklehurst, meantime, came of a silky producer's household. As financing her own wandering she pay out of her own pouch for the building of the Western Garden Museum, wherever Rebecca found her inspire. Her heritage includes not fair the objects she driven behind of Egypt but her comprehensive diaries and sketches of her trips downward the Nile, that are several of the just accounting records of grave sites up they were broken. But down there is a tertiary northern plant heir who done a main deposit to the UK's mumia craze, Amelia Oldroyd, whose finds are catalogued in skin-bound recording books in the file of the Bagshaw Museum in Batley. She was one of the at first to investigate a funeral camera at Abydos, now restored in the museum, following it was outdoor in 1900 for the at first period in 4000 year. At a period while man collectors were throw textile fabrics towards in their search for big mumia cases and objects, Amelia driven behind a uncommon untouched cartonnage, a mumia wrapper done of papyrus in a colored presentation of the corpse man's person. Here to Samira Ahmed's document, The Victorian Queens of Old Egypt, on Wireless 3, on Saturday, February 3 at 1845 onto a tertiary youthful woman archaeologist, Cairo-born Heba Abd el-Gawad. The woman explorers had a distinguishing attitude, focus not fair on the great tombs but on the sexual little laptop objects. A cause, perhaps, why they tended to be sacked as amateurs by modern man archaeologists. In comparison with displays how we see present, wherever down there is so lot attention on king figurines, all how is really shiny, I believe you can speak of their collecting patterns how they were as well concerned in the everyday lifetime of common human beings, Heba says. She points as well to their collections of cartonnage person wrappings. Down there is the closeness in the mumia person. You can see the eyes, it's looking behind at thou. You can see the humane creature in down there. In this date, Danielle and Rebecca as well attention on little laptop antiquities and which they show on lived lifetime, the do-up glass, the jewelry articles, the little statues. Rebecca's favorite subject in the screen in Macclesfield is a 6-inch figurine of a Tsarina titanium, who is tiring big florid wig and transport a lotus flower flail. It's one of the at first artifacts whose hieroglyphs I tested to convert, so how's rather specific to me, she says. This thread himself is very splendid. I loving Tsarina titanium, how strong she was and how lot impact she had. For Heba, 26, who grew up looking at the pyramids and thought on the humane labor constrained to build them, time read books on the old Egyptian planet purchased for her by her dad. The Victorian female themselves conduct a facility charm. They were Egyptology pioneers, who utilized social subscribe to fundraise to give culture enrich behind to common human beings. But they were as well colonialist looters. The diaries and lectures of these Victorian female sees the adrenaline race of opening. Amelia Edwards, else Victorian young pioneer, based the Egypt Research Foundation that done probable the excavations of the renowned man Egyptologist, Flinders Petrie. On one event she wrote on reception a mention at their camping of an painter traveling in them, happy go once, I include found the entry to a grave. Happy give several sandwiches. On racing to exceed him Amelia wrote, all how Saturday afternoon we toiled on our hands and knees as if for naked lifetime, by the flaming sunshine. More than rather than one day, while we suspended for a time's respiratory area, we told to every some, if such at household could see us, which would they tell? But the Victorian female were ecstatic attending in a type of savage western of collecting in the Nile Vale, struggling versus the more profound pockets of the UK Museum, the Jalousie and the Penn Museum of Philadelphia, bargaining in regional dealers and officials. Bribe and identity theft were usual. Marianne Brocklehurst's journal jokes on contraband antiquities of the cause how Mumia instance in Macclesfield is blank is since she thrown the flesh, perhaps overside of her ship, in the Nile, concerned the odor might offer off her identity theft. Heba says, perhaps for me it can be twice susceptible creature Egyptian and how we accept the flesh present. Though for pharaonic period down there were texts how completely convicted grave robbers and nobody who fiddles in mummies or does unwrapping fair to get the jewelry articles and amulets. How was a enormous crime in Old Egypt. Heba believes Egyptology museums should be fair on the origin of their collections. The new screen for Brocklehurst's Mumia instance in Macclesfield's Silky Museum, wherever it has been excited, of the Western Garden Museum, makes no refer of the discarding of the flesh, or the reality how it was imported of. Mummified hands sit in a window instance in no marking. I don't wish to do it audio love I'm profi returning all. How's not which I'm following, says Heba. Yet which I'm following is hard to do human beings believe which makes it reasonable. It would never include been reasonable, she points of, to artifact UK humane remnant the path. Rebecca feels she can yet see Marianne Brocklehurst as a character, time confirming how her journal shows the disagreeable, though bigot colonialist behavior of the period. Her favorite passages describe how Brocklehurst dismissed the Egyptian cook on her Nile floating house who was beaten the cuisine chambermaid, later assigned the chambermaid to his work. Her precedence is to defend the female. And it's fair, thou aware, we don't requirement the person. She, this chambermaid can do large. She was fair ferociously protection of the female in her lifetime. The conundrum now is if regional councils hit by year of center by the government financing intermittent, can see a importance in putting in enhanced displays and examination for these Egyptology collections. In a increasing quantity of the 150 museums through the nation that conduct such a collections down there is a fight to hold them on screen. Northampton justices contentious selling in 2014 of the old Egyptian sea Kemka image, talented to them in 1870, to lift cash, inflicted world indignation in the museum planet, particularly in Egypt. Arts Justice England withdrew the town museum's accrediting. I wonder I'm very, very grateful how Western Garden Museum was there, says Rebecca Holt. The museum is now seldom outdoor. Budgeting intermittent include hit Dewsbury Museum wherever Amelia Oldroyd's gallery was detained for lot year. It closed in 2016 and Bagshaw Museum in Batley, wherever the artifacts now are has no expert supervisor and operates confined discovery several hours. Bolton Museum shows which can be made in sight and cash. Its sensitively repaired Egypt balcony tells the history of Annie Barlow. Signboard in the nicely restored grave of Thutmose III, wherever the unknown man mumia is now on screen, makes precise how compliance humane remnant is a conundrum. Down there is equivalent attention on the lifetime of old Egyptians, not fair their die. Danielle Wooten looks at the crowds of family and families packaging Bolton's Egypt balcony in Bolton Museum. I'm very, very lucky to see it since how I think felt year back. And it's very large to see how it's ongoing to instill generations. Alga has been vaunted as a new superfood, and it's as well found in toothpaste, medical, and shampoo. In Zanzibar, it's big industry, and as it has been bred mainly by female, it has changed the sex balance sheet of force.